for the rest of our standing committee members to arrive so that we have a quorum and can begin the meeting. It appears that we've just had Commissioner Burrows join us. Good evening, Commissioner.
Good evening. Sorry, it was taking my computer a while to load it up.
Not a problem at all. We still are waiting for one of the last two members of our committee to join us so that we have quorum and we can begin.
Wonderful. I do trust everyone is feeling well, staying in, staying safe.
I do believe everyone is. So now I made the mistake. So now, Commissioner Burrows, I'm going to let you talk again so that your picture is the last one that goes up on the feed to UGTV.
We'll do the public a favor and not do that.
Looks like we are missing Commissioners Johnson and Walters. We're trying to get a hold of them.
Thank you very much. And again, for anyone who might have tuned in expecting to see either the Neighborhood and Community Development or Economic Development and Finance Standing Committees, we are one commissioner short of having quorum. So we're just going to sit here for a moment and we'll be able to begin those meetings in just a bit.
I have Commissioner Johnson who just joined.
Fantastic. Good evening, Commissioner.
Sorry, I'm having issues promoting him as a panelist. Give me a second.
Thank you. And I see now he has officially joined us. I said that too soon and jinxed it, didn't I?
He disappeared on me. I'm looking for him again.
Okay, thank you. And again, for anyone who might have joined us on UGTV, we are still waiting for Commissioner Johnson to join us so that we have a quorum and we can begin the meeting.
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson, I now see you on the participant list. Rocky, unless I hear otherwise from you, I would assume it is okay for us to begin the meeting.
Yes, you have quorum, so go ahead.
All right. I haven't heard otherwise, and I still see that we have our commissioners in the participant list. So we are going to have the meetings of the Neighborhood and Community Development and Economic Development and Finance Standing Committees in just a moment. But before I call the first meeting to order, I do want to announce that due to COVID-19, we do have some or most individuals attending on conference call, as well as those who are present in person. All the participants joining by phone should mute their phones when they're not speaking so that we can avoid background noise and any feedback that may occur. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and by title every time that you speak so that the public who is observing the meeting tonight knows who is speaking. For my benefit, if you would wish to speak during this first meeting, if you would simply go to your participant list and raise your hand, I'll be able to see it on my list here. I'll acknowledge you, and then you can announce yourself in to begin speaking. It is critical that we announce ourselves by both name and by title. And so I am Brian McKiernan, Commissioner of the 2nd District of the Unified Government. Given the number of people who are participating remotely tonight, that's the current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 requirements, public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public has been allowed to comment on items on tonight's agendas by email prior to these meetings. And if received, those comments will be read into the record of the respective meetings. At this point, I will call the meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Development Committee to order. And once again, welcome everyone who's joined us tonight. And I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Bridget Cobbins, Unified Government Clerk, roll call. Walters. Johnson.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Burrows.
Here.
McKiernan.
And Bridget, I'm going to say that although I can see your microphone is unmuted in my control panel, I at least cannot hear you.
Were you not able to hear me now?
I'm able to hear her. Commissioner McKiernan, this is Melissa Sieben.
I did hear all present except for Commissioner Walters, so I have everyone noted.
Commissioner Walters is here. Hold on just a second. Commissioner Walters, are you here? I show him on the line, but I don't hear him.
Commissioner McKiernan, can you hear me? It's Bridget.
Absolutely, Bridget. I do apologize. That was technical and that was on my end. You were
Okay,
fine.
great.
And so at this point, I will catch up. Have we called the roll?
Yes, the roll has been called. I was just waiting on Commissioner Walters to confirm.
Here. Hello, it's Jim.
Calling roll call. Walters.
Here.
We have all commissioners present, Chairman.
Beautiful. Thank you. There were no revisions to tonight's agenda after it was originally published. And so our first order of business now is to approve the minutes from our February 10th meeting of this committee. Is there a motion for approval?
Commissioner Townsend, move to approve.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Burrows,
Johnson.
second. Oh, go ahead.
So we have Commissioner Townsend to approve, Commissioner Burrows to the second. Rather than an assent vote, Bridget, if you would just go ahead and call the roll for the approval of these minutes, please.
Roll call for the minutes. Walters,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. Thank you so much. That takes us into our committee business for the evening, and we only have one item on the Neighborhood and Community Development Committee agenda. That item is land bank business. So at this point, I'll turn the floor over to Chris Slaughter, our land bank manager.
Good evening, everyone. Chris Slaughter with the Wyandotte County Land Bank Manager. We do only have one item tonight. That is 7 properties being requested to transfer from the unified government, or from the land bank to the unified government. These are the remaining properties that deal with the Walcott water treatment project. We discussed some of these back in January. These are the remainders that are still in the land bank's name. With approval tonight, we'll take them to the board for final approval, and then with that final approval, we'll transfer them into the unified government's name.
Does anyone on the committee have any questions or any comments for Mr. Slaughter?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. This represented our Commissioner Burrows. Do you need a motion?
Does anyone on the committee have any questions or any comments for Mr. Slaughter? We do need a motion, yes.
Move for approval.
Second, this is Commissioner Townsend.
So a motion by Commissioner Burrows and a second by Commissioner Townsend. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. And I realized that I didn't ask before we took a vote on this, but I assume there was no public comment received regarding these items on the Neighborhood and Community Development agenda.
No public comments were submitted.
Thank you very much. We have completed that item, and by completing that item, we have completed the Neighborhood and Community Development agenda. I will adjourn us in that capacity and turn the floor over to Commissioner Burrows for Economic Development and Finance.
Thank you, Commissioner McKiernan. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I'm assuming, before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, we have some individuals attending in person as well as on conference call. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid any background noise or interference. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so the public that is observing and participating knows whom is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 requirements, public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public has been allowed to submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. So welcome everyone. I will call the meeting to order. The Economic Development and Finance Standing Committee. I want to welcome everyone to this meeting. Public comment is welcome. Anyone wishing to speak on any item on the standing committee agenda has contacted the clerk's office, and we will recognize you when this item is up for discussion. You will have up to 3 minutes when speaking. At this time, I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call Bryant,
Here.
Walters,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Townsend,
Here.
McKiernan,
Here.
Burrows.
Here. Thank you, everyone. And I do want to acknowledge that Jeff Bryant is with us representing the BPU this evening on the committee. Tonight we have no revisions to tonight's agenda. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Our first order of business is the minutes from our February 10th meeting. I would entertain a motion for approval.
Commissioner McKiernan, move to approve as submitted.
Commissioner Johnson, second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Well, I'm going to ask the clerk to call roll because we're on Zoom this evening.
Roll call Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, Commissioners. And with that, the minutes have been approved. Item number 1 on the agenda this evening is the Civic Center Management Agreement. We have 2 items on our agenda. Item 1 is that amendment to the management agreement, and I'll recognize Kathleen Carter.
Good evening. This is Catherine Carter, Economic Development Director for the Unified Government. What you all are looking at today is a early termination of the Civic Center Management Agreement we have currently with Arcadios. This is basically it was a 5-year agreement that was in place back in April of 2016. 5-year agreement. So plans that expired in April 2021. Since that time, can you hear me? Yes. Good.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Well,
You may want to start over, Catherine. She's breaking up real bad.
Okay. Is this any better?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Maybe I need to sit back. Okay. So what we're looking at today is a early termination of the Civic Center Management Agreement. It's a 5-year agreement that commenced in April of 2016. The planned expiration date is April of 2021. So that's approximately 12 months from now. What we have agreed upon with this group, who is currently managing the Rear Center, the Civic Center, is a early termination that will allow them to still retain any, cover any costs associated with an early termination while getting out of and canceling any planned events starting in June 1st of 2020, so that then we can move forward with the other project that you all have heard about with Linear United and turning that property into a different configuration. So what we have agreed upon is a total cost of $51,000. So that basically is, we kind of split it into two different parts. So there is determined what their net proceeds were on a monthly basis from June through October, which is when they had events still scheduled. And that was about $7,200. And then from November through April, just paying their normal management agreement, which was $2,500. So that comes up to $51,000. And with that, we would amicably separate our agreement. Does anyone have any questions?
Do we have any questions from the commissioners?
This is BPU Board Member Jeff Bryant. Catherine, so when is the new
Yes, Jeff.
project supposed to kick off?
So we're at the moment looking to start demo this summer. So whether that would be June or July, but in that time frame, certainly not later than July.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners?
It
Brian?
appears that Commissioner Townsend has a question. She has her hand up.
I do not see Gail on my screen. Commissioner Townsend, I truly apologize. Please, we will recognize you now.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is Gail Townsend, District 1. I believe the question that Mr. Bryan asked and Ms. Carter's response answered the question that I had. So effectively, really immediately with the signing of this agreement, there will be no more activity scheduled for the Reardon Center.
Correct. Under normal circumstances, they would have continued to have their scheduled activities through May of this year. So for the next 2 months, obviously with COVID-19, those have also been canceled. So effectively, yeah, there's no more events in the Reardon Center.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? I don't see any hands up on my screen. So if you want to speak, just recognize yourself. I'll wait just a second. Seeing none, just to recap, this is an amendment to the Unified Governments Agreement with Brancato's Catering, which will allow the development of the downtown campus project to proceed. The First Amendment would cause the agreement to terminate on May 31st, 2020, and provide for a one-time payment of $51,000 to Brancato's to cover any costs associated with the early termination. Is that correct, Catherine?
That is correct.
Thank you. At this time, if there's no other comments, I'll ask the clerk, did we have any public comment?
No public comment request.
This is BPU Board Member Jeff Bryant. Move to approve.
Second, Gail Townsend, District 1 Commissioner.
Thank you, committee. We've had a motion and a second. At this time, I would ask clerk call roll.
Roll call: Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. Now this brings us to item number 2 this evening, and this is just for public information, information purposes only. This is the last item, is an update on the motor vehicle registration customer service initiatives. This evening, I believe we have Catherine Carter, Rick McKessick, and Andrea Parr with us this evening.
Yes, Rick McKessick is with
If
you.
everyone's present. Okay.
Yes,
Great.
Andrew Carr, Deputy Treasurer as well.
Whichever one of you wants to lead off. Okay, wonderful. Well, welcome this evening. So I'll recognize either Rick or Andrea, whichever one wants to start it. Is Kathleen Von Atchen on? Okay. All right. Well,
Good night, or good evening, everybody.
Hi,
Mara Para, Deputy Treasurer. I'll be the one starting. How is everyone?
All right, great.
Great to have you. I'm going to start out and then Rick will take over, obviously. We're here tonight to just go over the motor vehicle progress from last year. A lot was going on, a lot still going on, as you all probably know. As far as things that we're doing and things that you will see as it stands, 2019, we did quite a lot of business operational activity, which would include a title and registration, which is the new purchase of a vehicle you either owned by purchase, either new or used, slightly used. That would be about 38,000 new vehicles that we titled last year. Among that, we also had registration renewals on vehicles you would have already possessed, ownership of about 115,000. And then additionally, we did about 30,000 of additional randomly generated items that we refer to as miscellaneous transactions. Things like canceling titles, correcting titles, adding liens, removing liens, things like that. Just to get you a little idea of what that looks like in our office, a title and registration average takes about 12 minutes to process on a good day. A renewal is about 5 minutes, and miscellaneous activity takes 1 to 5 minutes, depending on the process that we do. Next slide I want to go over is the renewal breakdown slide that we have here. I want to point out the dotted line that you see in black would be the year that we went live through MyWICO with the online, what is called ICANN, merged into our MyWICO app, which allows the online renewal. That would be, we started in April 2018. One thing I wanted to point out, we do have some goals in mind with this process. As you see, our online is in blue, or excuse me, the in-office is blue. That is very high. Our goal is to flip and converge those lines so that online is first, mail would be the second choice, and then the in-office renewal would be last resort. We do have a few barriers. We did get slim to no marketing from the state level when we went live with ICANN, so we're picking up that here at the local level. We have a lot of cash paying patrons, and a high amount of the opportunity that is to do renewal can only be done if you're current, which is the month you're due. You cannot renew if you are delinquent or past due. So that is a barrier that we do have. Next slide is the customer service surveys. Back in 2015, we bought a service that allows us to do an active form site survey response system for anybody that comes into the office or visits our website. We had a lot of activity this year. It doubled since 2018, which is great. Unfortunately, the overall activity itself was going to be quite less favorable due to some staffing that we do have. We were down up to 9 people over the summer, which caused for quite a delay in processing of the overall experience that it comes to. And on top of that, most of that staff would have to be sent that we did have out to cover the annex, which is our high volume location, if you will. It's easier to get there. There's less security than there would be potentially here at the courthouse. And there's just residually more staff seniored there to help assist the higher volume traffic. Go to the next slide here. A little more in depth as to what you can see based on either unfavorable or favorable. Again, I want to reiterate the issue we really have is going to be determined based on staffing levels. We have 16 windows in 2 offices, and about 7 of the 12 months last year, we only had about 6 to 8 people covering both of those office locations. So staffing was a big concern as to why we are where we are with that survey response. I would like to still point out, even though we were understaffed, the overall rate of customer service was almost a 90%. So yeah, we were understaffed, but we were always kind, great to be serviced, knew what we were wanting to provide them. Even if we couldn't assist, we at least gave them the opportunity to know why they couldn't be helped. And we left with them hopefully happy that they were at least able to hear what we had to say. Next slide is a little more complex on the types of things that they were complaining about through that survey response service. One thing I want to point out, as you see the low staffing and wait time, they correlate together. That is essentially 55% of the overall complaints were related to low staffing and wait time, which to me is all one and the same. We can't assist people if we don't have the staff here to do so. Wait time goes up for people on a line at any given point. There are 5, 6, 7 hour waits residually through that day, trying to make do with what we have. Next slide is going to be the wait time complaints. That high point in orange where you see between March of 19 to September, those months are the months that we were short our highest number of staffing, which was up to 9 people through that summer. So that bar graph does, or the line graph does, kind of dictate where we are based on the amount of staff we did not have in the office at any given point. Next slide I'd like to go over is just something fun, friendly to show a good spirit here as to some of the results that I've extracted from the survey. They have a section where they can leave notes. A lot of what I see is always positive. The young lady that helped me was very knowledgeable, patient, and so nice. They're fast, courteous, friendly, knowledgeable, very swift experience. They have things to say and we listen, not always positive, and we address those as well. But 9 times out of 10, when they do leave a note, it's to call them and talk to them about how well they did, how good they were, how nice they were. Next slide I wanted to go over is what we like to show each year. The goal that was set when we finally got that queue system, we want to be able to meet or beat 2:54 p.m. every day to cut that title off where we no longer service a constituent for title work. This last year, we did not meet that. We got to 2:41 p.m. average amongst both offices. Again, unfortunately, due to staffing, we just couldn't keep those lines open without forcing staff to be here at all days and times of the night. So we got closer than we probably could have if we were not pushing things that we had to kind of set aside during the month, but we did get close, and it's tremendous how well we're doing now. One thing I want to kind of go over next is the efforts. We here in the office, the management team have a huge emphasis on motor vehicle and customer service, along with treasury as well. Some things to point out, you may not been in our offices recently. We upgraded all the technology, got brand new computers, iPads. Every staff member has 2 screens. They were used to working with 1. And my career experience was not the best setup. I'm used to 2. So we got them all 2. The annex facility now has a working microphone and speaker system that we're going to bring to the courthouse sooner than later this year. Some other improvements, we've moved the commercial motor vehicle changes to allow the constituent to request an appointment by email, not allowing them the access to walk in, as it is a more convoluted process and needs to be prepped prior to coming in. So that saved a lot of office time. And we no longer require constituents to wait in line for certain miscellaneous work that doesn't either have a monetary value or doesn't need someone to stand at a window to do. So we are assisting people at the lobby level by mail and getting them in and out without getting in that queue system to wait in line for things they can do as a back office process. Another thing we're really overhauling is the training. Because we've gone through so many different staff levels, 7, 8, 9 people at a time, we had to get creative in layman's terms to be able to know how to train 3+ staff at once that are brand new. So we overhauled our 2-week training period. That's just the in-office 2-week training. There is about a 6-week training process from the day you start to the time you're actually being productive and getting work out in a way that is not handhelded or being watched by someone above you. And we do that for each level, from the frontline level, very entry level, to myself. We're all involved in that training so they can see and hear everybody's experience, but also know that we're all doing similar work to kind of bridge the gap between a position to a position. Another item we're doing that we started in 2019 is one of my staff, myself, Rick, managers are attending the Livable Neighborhoods meetings, talking about my YCO, explaining education on title work, motor vehicle treasury, anything that we do here. So they're hearing it and seeing it, but learning through our presentations.
This is Rick McKessick, County Treasurer. The slide that we have up now shows I believe the commission has seen this before. This would be the results of the survey that was conducted recently for 2020. And this particular slide here simply reflects that motor vehicle registration is a very high priority and the most important priority as far as county level services go with the constituents. This slide presents the same information but broken down by whether it was the person's first, second, third, or fourth choice, and it only serves to reiterate the information that was provided on the slide before that shows it was 44%. It is obviously an important aspect to the constituents of the county, and it's something that we also feel is very, very important to us, and we want to try to make it the best experience possible. what we have on this slide is just a few ideas. The biggest issue we have, and Andrea touched on it a couple of times, is our turnover and our vacancies. During February of 19 through February of 2020, on average, we were missing 6 individuals on the motor vehicle side. 6 individuals makes up a rather large percentage of the people that we have sitting on that front line. And at any given time during the year, we averaged 6. We were never below 4 positions short the entire year. And at one point during the summer, we were down 9 individuals, and that literally was half of our front line. And it's a very challenging thing when we have so much volume on the first slide that was presented to you. There's a lot of volume and a lot of work that comes into the office, and when you're missing half of your front line, it's going to be noticeable when you start looking at the stats and the delays. What we have learned by looking at the last couple of years, we've had 25 vacancies in the Treasury office. Most of that is on the motor vehicle side. Over the last 2 years, that is roughly 2/3 of the staff of the entire division. Now, some of those individuals moved up in our own division, but we also had a lot of individuals that moved outside of Treasury and moved into other areas of the unified government, and that's something we support because they're growing in their career, and it's a good opportunity for them to move up in their career, and we support that. But it makes it very challenging on us because now we have to replace those individuals. We had some individuals have retired. We've had some that simply resigned, although we only had 3 of those individuals that resigned. And of course, we had some terminations that we dealt with over the last 2 years. So if you consider 25 vacancies, we only have 40 people in the entire division. And so there's been a lot of changes that have occurred. So one of the things that we looked at doing was if it would be possible to change or reclass the level of the positions that we have on the front line. A number of the individuals, when we do have individuals that are leaving, we are conducting exit interviews to touch base with them, see what their interest is, see what the reason they moved, and having some discussions with them. And one of the things we're hearing over and over again with a lot of the people that are moving to other places in the UG is they're moving for more money because that the opportunity is there. So that is an issue for us. And so we looked at taking that approach to having that discussion. And then the other bullet point that we have there is more provisionary PINs. Years ago, 2 provisionary positions were assigned or awarded to the Treasury office. And the idea behind the provisionary positions is to account for the fact that when somebody leaves, it takes a while to replace them, and we are constant replacement mode. In fact, it does take us in excess of 3 months on average to replace a person, and that doesn't even account for the training that Andrea spoke of earlier. So if you add that 6 weeks of training, we're talking about the 4 to 5 months before we actually have a person fully productive replacing the person that left. I mentioned that we, on average, over last year, we have had 6 vacancies, and the 2 provisionary positions have helped significantly, but we're down 6 on average. So 2 isn't making up for the 6. So we are throwing those out there as ideas to consider in order to improve the wait times and make it so that it's not such a burden to the community, in addition to all the efforts that we're doing to try to encourage and people to renew online or through the mail if necessary. So those are the that's what we've got for the presentation, and we're going to open it up for questions.
Anyone have any questions, any comments?
Commissioner McKiernan has his hand raised.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm
Just a
sorry,
couple of
I don't see him on my screen.
No worries at all. Just a couple of questions. Andrea, you said that your goal ultimately is to flip the number of people who come in person with the number of people who renew online, correct?
Correct.
Best case scenario, what do you think would be your time frame when we might be able to accomplish that? Or do you think, go ahead.
Realistically, for me, I don't think we'll ever completely flip that entirely, as there are those barriers. I know some of those barriers I'm pushing on at the Kansas Department of Revenue layer, which is allowing that delinquent renewal through pay it regardless of month. That will significantly increase that, and that's supposed to be a late 2020 goal of theirs. I would say 1 year to 2 year, we could probably bridge that gap to essentially at least get the mail above the walk-in. And then online, we'll just slowly work through the education of learning what you can and cannot do. There are, the insurance commission requirements. When those are lifted, as we are not, we're not making valid insurance decisions. That's something state level. So there will always be a barrier, but I definitely think we can start educating through this process through COVID. Unfortunately, I'm seeing it day in and day out, conversations about why I cannot renew. I'm handling all of that conversation myself to make sure the method and the measurement of what we're doing is getting out there properly. And if that continues to go through with the education I'm providing, I feel within 1 year to 2 years, we could definitely change that significantly.
Fantastic. Did changing our entry door have any impact on the ability of people to come in and find your office when we did the security change?
Yes, pretty high significant impact for our office here at the courthouse. That's when our inflow to the annex started high, very high. They get all of the title work out there most of the time. We would be at no wait or 10-minute wait, and they'd be at 4 hours.
And what was it about changing our security procedures, do you think, that led people to go to the annex?
For me, as just a resident, I would say I would still come here because it's safe. But unfortunately, I'm not everyone. And I think it's just the amount of time it took to go through security here is different than going in, parking, walking right into the annex and a non-metal detected line sort of wait in line type of environment as it is here at the courthouse. It's just easier to them is what they're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of questions for Rick. Do we have any idea what the budget impact would be in terms of reclassifying those entry-level positions as you suggested?
We haven't put numbers together because that would take a number of different assumptions. Because if we're changing those levels, then we might have to open up the discussions about changing other levels to make sure it is fair to everybody in the division. I can tell you that what I have looked at as far as what we on an annual basis, we are not really coming very close at all to the budgeted dollars that are in our budget each year. For example, this year I believe we're just under 2.4 million in our salaries and benefits, and for 17, 18, and 19 we're right around 2 million is what our actual was, which you would pretty much expect to come in quite a bit lower when you are consistently at a number of vacancies every week. So it is that if there's an appetite to have that discussion, that's certainly a road we would be happy to go down. But since there were so many different aspects and assumptions that need to be made, we opted not to start that discussion as far as what it would cost.
Fantastic. Last question. I just want to confirm that you think that reclassifying those positions would contribute to reducing attrition and reducing replacement costs in terms of training new employees.
I do believe it would reduce our turnover, yes.
Fantastic. Thanks. That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Rick, Andrea, I want to thank you for your presentation this evening and for really making this process a little more customer friendly. As we seem to be making progress every year. I know I've already renewed mine. It didn't take me more than 10 or 15 minutes on the computer. So I was pleased to see that. I do have a constituent comment. One of them was, can you get a new title and or registration over the internet? Can they do it over the internet, or do they have to come in person to get a new registration for a new vehicle?
They would have to come into the office if they recently purchased a car. Obviously, due to COVID-19, we are closed till at least the 23rd, but we are working through communicating that. But yes, that is an in-office process only.
Okay, I will pass that on, and I have no other comments or questions.
Commissioner
Does
Johnson.
anyone else?
Commissioner Johnson
Yes.
has a question.
All right, well, thank you. And I don't see those hands on my screen, so I apologize. Don't hesitate to speak up.
Well, it took the longest for me to figure out how to raise my hand, but I didn't have that problem back in elementary school. I'm just this question, I don't know who it's for, but on slide number 6, there is a comparison. Maybe Andrea, I think you were doing the presentation at this point. There's a comparison from year to year, and it looks like it's from 2019 versus 2017. And I'm just wondering, was there not comparable data for 2018 as you
There
were
would be,
doing?
yes. Yep. So 2018, I don't have the graph easily available to you, but I can tell you wait time, that percentage was 39% of our complaints. And then for low staffing was at 9%, the main two that we were focusing on with this slide presentation.
Okay, so pretty similar to what we see in 2019 then.
Yes.
In terms of wait time. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep, high wait time. Yep.
Commissioner Townsend has a comment or a question.
Thank you. I appreciate.
Please,
Ms.
Commissioner.
Parra. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate Ms. Parr and Mr. McKissick's explanation of the wait time and how that is all tied into the loss of staff, the turnover of staff, and how long it takes to retrain staff. So I would be very interested in looking at what we could do, like you say, budget-wise, that might make those on the front line jobs more competitive financially. I'll also say that I was one of the ones that came into the office. Rest assured that will not happen this year. But I'm always impressed with the efficiency of that staff and how they get to whatever you need without sacrificing, at least in my cases, just good customer service, and no, they don't know who I am from Adam. So I appreciate that. And one of the things I'd be interested in knowing, how many people in the course of a day on average do each of those frontline workers service? And that number may be different depending upon if you're at the courthouse or at the annex. I'm just curious. But thank you for your service, and pass that on to those individuals as well.
I will. Commissioner, I can actually get that information to you. At any rate, our survey response and our queuing system, they all rate and scale all of that down for us into reporting. So we can provide that to anybody who's interested.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I wanted to just make one comment. I wanted to support Rick's comments and Andrea's about our recommended approach for addressing the wait times. I think that it's a really positive way of addressing our operational needs at a minimal cost, and I think it will really achieve the goal that we're trying to achieve every day, to improve the customer service. And certainly the wait times have got to be reduced. So if we can bring in and be fully staffed all the time, that would be great. You know, the tight job market has really impacted the Treasury Department too. So, you know, the low wages and then the wait time, the competitiveness of the other UG departments, all of that plays into it. But given the fact that it's one of the top priorities in county services right now, especially as measured by the community survey, it's really important that we try to address the wait times, but at as minimal cost as possible. So that's all.
Thank you, Kathleen. I would just echo those comments. There are many of us that value the work of staff and of our employees, and anything that we can do to make their jobs easier, especially when they deal with our consumers, which happens to be our public. We want them to be able to feel comfortable in their job, knowledgeable in their job, and for the community to know that we're there to serve. And I commend everyone who does that on a daily basis, even in some of the most trying of times. So thank you, each and every one of you that serve us.
Yeah, there's also one other thing is a lot of some folks think that if we switch everyone over to online, that will maybe reduce the level of staffing. And I did want to point out that even though payments are being made online, there's still the back office work that has to be done in order to actually process those payments and enter it into the system. So, it's not a one-for-one. There's always going to be that need for back office. It may diminish as people pay online, but there's still a need for the back office work to be done. So.
Thank you, Kathleen. Rick, Andrea, I just want to say I appreciate the expense of the purchasing the new equipment to help everyone do their jobs, the new computer equipment and iPads. I'm sure are absolutely necessary, and hopefully that's assisted in cutting down on the wait time. So as you move forward with your investment in IT equipment, I do hope that meets the criteria necessary to address the wait time and makes things even more efficient, what you've been able to accomplish over the last year.
Commissioner, most of that work was done right at the end of the year, and we're talking about 2019. So none of that would have really been reflected in what we just talked about today. We obviously were hoping to see improvements show up this year, and then of course COVID-19 changed things. But it was a significant effort, and I do want to recognize that we got a significant support from the IT office in helping us through that, and they did some great work for us. So I want to acknowledge them as well.
Great. Thank you. If there's any other comments, any other information, commissioners? Hearing none, this was for informational purposes only. Before we adjourn this evening, I do want to advise and plead that everyone please stay in, stay safe, stay healthy. And I would like to thank you all for the update and your continued endeavors to improve upon the process for our constituents. Hearing no other comments or concerns, that concludes our meeting for this evening. Thank you for your attendance, as well as those who joined us by other means. We are adjourned.